Hey guys, how are you doing today? Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're watching me from. This is Demin once again signing in. I'm your financial independence, career advancement, and life transformation coach. And I've been talking about the financial independence framework, and we have been talking about the second C. I call it the 4C model. Conquer yourself, which is a self transformation, which is the first C. Secondly, conquering your career, which is more of your career transformation. Thirdly, conquer your finances. And lastly, conquer your time, right? And we have been talking about the second C, which is the conquering your career or career transformation, right? And I spoke about in this second C, the very important thing is that you need to have a very clearly defined goal of where you want to be, by when, right? Maybe over a 10-year horizon, 7-year horizon, what role you want to be at, right? And what salary you want to be at is something that you will have to define for yourself, right? And I think the first point is how to define your target goal, right? So let's say, and that is what I'm going to talk about today. I think this is the most important thing, and that's where I think you will need to work, yourself to kind of understand, right, what you are good at. So I think what at this stage when you're defining what is your target role, you need to sit down and understand that what are your skill sets and what is your talent, right? Which industry you are into, right? And over whatever length of time you've been working, what are the kind of experiences you carry. And I think by now you are very clear, in your mind at least, that I am good at something, right? I am good at this particular piece of my job, right? And with that, right, I think what you need to do with your qualifications. See, basically market will read you based on your experience and your qualifications, right? So let's say if you are a commerce graduate and you've done your MBA and you work with the industry for let's say 5 years. I think no matter what domain you are into, since you're an MBA graduate, you are applicable to many sectors, right? Especially in the sector that you are currently working into, right? So basically, what you need to do is you need to capitalize on your experience as well as your qualifications, right? And it may be a requirement that for the role that you are aiming for, you may need to pick up some additional qualifications which you would probably need to do. But I think what's more important is now understanding what kind of experience that you have so far, what is your qualification, and what you feel that if I kind of achieve this particular role in my career, I will be a happy guy, right? I will think that my I think one of the objectives of my life is complete, right? What is that one role which I had in mind when I was studying my MBA, or when I was studying my commerce or whatever education that I was doing, right? What was that dream role, right? And with your experience right now, I think what you need to do is think about where you want to be in the next 5-10 years, okay? And there are various options, right? Meaning if you decide that hey, you know what, I need to kind of move to Canada, to Australia, to the US, to the UAE, then maybe that is something that you need to work towards, right? Then that is your goal over the next 10 years time, and then there will be a process to that, right? Let's say you identify yourself as a I want to be into operations. I want to be a delivery leader. I want to be a COO, right? Then I think you need to work towards that. And there could be various other things that it may come out to be as an outcome over a period of time which you want to be, right? We'll take an example, right? Let's say you are a commerce graduate, you are an MBA, and you have worked in a company for like 4 or 5 years, and you have skill sets good enough, and your experience and the company that you're working for, I think over a period of time you can be groomed into let's say a very good COO, right? Then I think that becomes your goal, right? That becomes your goal. And then what you can do, and there is a lot of information into the market, right? You can probably search for some sample COO CVs. You can search for us, what is the kind of remuneration or the salary CEOs draw, right? There's a lot of information on the internet today, right? So you can be a part of various communities, various groups on LinkedIn, and basically what will happen is you will understand how does a COO profile looks like, how does a CEO perform his duty, what are the skill sets that are required at that level, what are the kind of qualifications are of most successful CEOs have, what are the kind of money that they are drawing, right? Once you have that information, right, once you have that information, then you need to look at yourself and your CV and try to see where is the gap, right? There will be many things when you do this exercise. You will understand that there are so many things that you need to build, right, over a period of time to be at that role, right? So when you have that kind of information, what happens is that you will identify the gaps, and what I would suggest is then you try to mold your CV in line to that role, right? I'm not saying that you need to lie on your CV. There will be many things that you're already doing, but you are not mentioning that in your CV, or not marketing yourself enough, right? So I think based on those bigger goals or bigger roles, right? You need to kind of modify your CV accordingly. But because eventually now you're targeting to be at that level, right? And the market should start reading you that you are a potential candidate for picking up something really great, right? But you'll have to kind of position that. So what I would suggest is that you do some desktop research, download some sample CVs of some of the top CEOs in the market, and there is a lot of information on the internet that you can pick up. LinkedIn is a very amazing source, right? Go Google for some of the top CEOs in the market, go through their profile. If you need to kind of buy a paid account, go ahead and do that. It's I think probably what, $1,800 a month, right? On a temporary basis you can do that. Go through the profiles and see how does a successful CEO profile look like, right? And this is not to kind of finger point, hey, what have you done and what have these guys done. No, it is basically to understand how the CVs are getting positioned, CVs are getting structured, and what are the kind of skill sets and how the presentation is done, right? You will find out that many things, like for example, you are not probably marketing your achievements enough, right? What you may think that this is not a good thing to mention in my CV, probably that is something that needs to be mentioned into your CV. So very importantly, your CV needs to kind of be groomed in line to one of the top performing CEOs. Probably it may not have everything similar, right? But there will be definitely something that you will need to do to kind of modify your CV so that it is in line to a high performing CEO, because that is something that you are aspiring to be over a period of time. Okay, that is step number one. And again, I don't want you to lie on your CV, but try to bring out many things that is currently not there in your CV into your CV, which is in line to your future goal, right? And once you do that, you will identify there are many things, right? Many things which is a gap, right? There are probably you would need to some need to pick up some specialistic qualifications, right? You would need to kind of build on certain skill sets. Right, you will need to kind of increase your exposure, right? You need to probably work on a lot of multicultural environment. You need to probably manage a couple of entities of a business, right? You need to probably manage a bigger portfolio which you are not currently doing, and probably you didn't have an opportunity to do that. The point is that you need to identify what is the gap that you need to bridge, right? It may be in terms of your qualification, right? You may probably need to, as I said, study something else, right? Pick up that certification, right? You need to probably work on certain skill sets, right? To kind of bridge to that. And when you make those CVs, I think parallelly two things that you need to do. Once you have that CV, and I can help you actually, making that winning CV, right? And then once you have it, you float it into the market, right? at the same time parallelly you start working on the gaps. Now all of a sudden in this stage you will realize that the time that you had earlier, you were probably putting in on a Netflix or something else or something else or something else, right? I mean, there is so much time that you have, like in a day there is 24 hours. Even if you're sleeping for like 6 7 hours, maybe 8 9 hours, right, at office, then the rest of the time is yours, right? What you do, I think any person can have a decent at least 2 hours per day, 2 to 3 hours per day for himself, and that's the time you need to start investing on building this gap, right? And you start doing that, right? If you need to enroll for a specialistic qualification or certification, you do that parallelly, right? If you want to be certified from a top B school, go ahead and do that, right? And start working on that, because now you have something to work on, right? You have something to work on, so you start doing that. Your CV is already floated into the market, and once your CV is floated into the market, what happens is, when you have a winning CV, there will be a lot of calls that will start hitting on your phone, right? There will be a lot of calls that will come, and there will be a lot of interview opportunities that you're getting, because there will be a lot of keywords on your CV which is market demanding, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about a supply demand equation, right? If your CV has a lot of keywords which is in demand in today's context, then you are going to get a lot of calls, right? And then when a call comes, it doesn't mean that, hey, you know what, I got a job opportunity and I'm going to get the job. No, right? What it means is that you get an opportunity to talk, because when you have positioned now yourself as a senior leader, you will be called by so many people, right? So many people, and especially the management guys will start pick attention of your CV, right? And they will call you for the interviews, right? And when you go for those interviews, be with an open mind and see that you are going to go for this interview, and you want to face this interview confidently, right? And interviewing skills and stuff is another topic. I will come to that. But what I'm going to tell you here is that you will get an opportunity to face some senior leaders in the process, right? Because your CV is very appealing, you will be called by the senior leaders for some senior positions, right? And when you go and approach face that interview, there will be a bunch of questions probably you will be able to answer. There will be a bunch of questions that you will not be able to answer, and maybe you don't get the job at the first shot, right? But what is going to happen in the process is, you will now know that the gap between your perceived things versus what the market is looking at, right? And with that what happens is, right, you will now know, hey, you know what, I am good 50%, but there is a 50% gap which I need to probably work on, or probably I knew the answers, but I didn't position it in the right way, and then what happens is, you start working on that. You start reframing the kind of responses you will need to give in these kind of interviews, right? And then what will happen is that you will give many interviewing opportunities, right? Go ahead and face the interviews, right? Because you learn a lot with these interviews, right? And when you kind of face a couple of interviews, you will be polished yourself, because it is a honing process, right? It will just take out the rough edges from you, right? How to face an interview, because first time you learn, second time you learn something, third time you learn something, and eventually, right, there will be a golden spot, there will be a sweet spot when it will just click for you, right? And you will get that dream job.